elucidation. And while we've been looking at the guests, another.
Okay, so we're diving into something pretty interesting today. We're taking a look at a what-if, hypothetical cricket match between two Indian batsmen at their peak, Shubman Gill and Sanju Samson.
Sounds exciting.
Yeah, and we have this breakdown of their styles and what makes them so good. So the big question we're trying to answer is what makes these guys tick, and why maybe in this hypothetical matchup one might be predicted to come out on top over the other.
Yeah, I think that's always the big question, isn't it? Who would win in a head-to-head?
Exactly, and it's it makes it even more interesting because it's the classic clash of consistency versus that raw firepower.
Right. You've got the elegant technician versus the explosive game changer.
Exactly. Yeah. And so let's start with Shubman Gill, right? The description we have here calls him like an elegant prodigy.
Yeah.
A classic top order batsman. What really jumps out at me are those core attributes, right? The pristine technique, the sublime timing, and I think maybe most importantly, the calm under pressure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, you watch him bat, and it's like he's got ice in his veins. It's incredible.
It really does feel key, right? The way he builds an innings with patience.
Yeah.
But it's not just passive; it's calculated aggression.
It's like he knows exactly when to pick his moments to attack. You can't just sit back and wait for him to make a mistake.
Right, and that's interesting because, he's known for longer formats of the game, but even in T20s, this source highlights his clean hitting and composure as real assets.
Yeah.
He can anchor an innings, but also accelerate when needed.
Yeah, he's definitely a versatile player, and those qualities are valuable in any format.
Absolutely.
Right.
Now, no batsman is perfect, right? So what about any potential weaknesses? Does the analysis mention any chinks in the armor?
Well, interestingly, they point out a couple of things. Sometimes he can be a bit slow to start, and they also suggest a vulnerability against high-quality wrist spin early on.
Oh, interesting. So even someone as technically gifted as Gill has areas where he can be exploited.
That's the beauty of cricket, right? There's always a way to challenge a batsman no matter how good they are.
For sure. All right, so let's turn our attention now to Sanju Samson. And here, the contrast is pretty stark. He's described as this flamboyant stroke maker with explosive potential, just T20 dynamite,
Oh yeah, he's box office, that's for sure.
Right, and the source really emphasizes that ability to clear the boundary from ball one, and that knack for innovating under pressure.
He's one of those players who can single-handedly change the momentum of a game in a matter of overs.
Absolutely. So what sets him apart in terms of his batting style?
Well, the analysis highlights his fearless hitting and fast hands as making him super dangerous against pace. And, the term that comes to mind is short bursts, those quick game-changing innings that he's known for.
Yeah, it sounds like you get these moments of brilliance. But then what about the other side of that coin? Are there any inherent challenges that come with that kind of high-octane approach?
Yeah, I mean, the source is pretty upfront about his, career-long struggle with inconsistency and that tendency to throw away starts.
Right, so it's that classic trade-off. You get the incredible highs, but also the risk of those frustratingly short cameos.
Exactly, and that's what makes this comparison so fascinating, right? It's Gill's consistency and adaptability going up against Samson's flair and explosiveness. It's like patience versus firepower.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So in a head-to-head like this, where do you think that balance might tip?
Well, according to this analysis, the prediction is pretty clear. Shubman Gill takes the win like 5 shots.
Wow. So a pretty decisive victory there. Even though we don't have all the details of how the match played out, the implication seems to be that Gill's reliability, his ability to build an innings and weather pressure, ultimately proved more effective than Samson's reliance on those explosive bursts.
Yeah, it seems like consistency won out in this scenario. Maybe Gill was able to capitalize on any mistakes or periods of lower intensity from Samson.
Right. So I guess it makes you think, in the long run, does that consistent technique and adaptability win out over just raw power, even in a format as fast-paced and explosive as T20 cricket?
It's a really interesting question, and it makes me think about how these contrasting approaches, that methodical technique versus that high-risk, high-reward talent, how those play out in other areas of life, beyond just cricket.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, think about your own areas of interest or expertise, right? Are there times when a more measured and reliable strategy is better?
Right.
And when might that explosive, game-changing approach be the way to go?
It's something we're thinking about, it's a dynamic that we see everywhere, not just in sports.
Absolutely. Food for thought for everyone.
Indeed.
And that's our deep dive for today. Thanks for joining us.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll catch you next time.
See you then.